All right, so I actually do wear two hats. I wear the product management hat for BigBlueButton, which is an open source web conferencing system for online learning. It's what Canvas Conferences is built on. That's the hat I'll be wearing during the talk. The other hat I wear is I'm the CEO of Blindside Networks. We're the company that started the BigBlueButton project. We provide the hosting, and we've been working with Instructure since they were like 10% of the size that they are now. So BigBlueButton is an open source project, like Canvas. So what is driving us at the project? Well, this is what we state as our mission. We believe that every student with a web browser should have access to a high-quality online learning experience. And what that means to us is the focus is online learning. We really think about, well, what is the instructor trying to do to teach students to increase engagement, and what are the students trying to do to learn, to level up, to increase their knowledge, and do it in a synchronous learning environment. And the open source is pretty important for us as well. I mean, if you've ever checked out the project, it's localized into about 35 languages. That's done by our community. It's used all around the world. I've had people come up to me saying they're from such and such a part of the world at other events, and they say they use BigBlueButton. And I'm saying, great, I've never spoken with you before. There are a number of products that have actually on the market built themselves on top of BigBlueButton. So we've been working at this for 7 years now, and this is our focus, is online learning. As a product manager, what does that really mean? So this is what I define my responsibilities, my Maslow hierarchy of needs, what I care about in this order. And first and foremost is stability. My philosophy is it doesn't matter anything else in that list. If the product's not stable, it doesn't really matter. After stability, the next thing comes is usability. So when I listen to people, when I hear feedback on the product, I always think about how can I make BigBlueButton, how can I work with the team, and how can we make BigBlueButton more adaptive to your needs, but at the same time, easier to use. And I figure if we're doing that right, we're headed in the right direction. So stability, usability, then features. So we all want lots of features, but those two things come first, security and scalability. It's one thing for me to say, hey, we work really hard to make BigBlueButton usable and useful and simple to use and so on. But this is a quote from Marianne Deville. She is a senior IT director at National University College Online. They're a Canvas customer, and they have been using BigBlueButton heavily for well over almost 2 years now. And this is a quote that she agreed to provide based on their experience of switching from one platform to another. So regardless of anything that I say, from a product manager point of view, when you can see a customer say this thing about the product that you're working on, then you know you're headed in the right direction. And that's what we look for. And by the way, if you have any feedback on BigBlueButton, anytime afterwards, you can always find me. If there's good things to say about the product, I'll pass it on to the developers. If you have anything criticism about the product, you tell me. I'll work on getting it fixed. When I mentioned earlier that there were other projects building on top of us, probably the biggest design win we have had to date is the US Department of Defense has built an entire collaborative system to replace an existing one on BigBlueButton. So if you Google DISA, BigBlueButton, you'll see this article come up first. And what they say is the Defense Systems Information Agency expects to save at least $12 million a year on the distributed collaborative environment, which is based, later on the article it says, on BigBlueButton. So I actually had a call from them last fall. It was like at gov.mil, and I'm like, okay, this is interesting. So I'm on the phone with them, and they're telling me all the stuff they're doing. I'm like, oh my God. So they're in production. So that's military. This is used for the US Department of Defense military deployment. That's BigBlueButton. Same thing that's running inside of, same engine that's running inside of Canvas. Well, they tweaked it quite a lot. They modified it, but it's BigBlueButton code they based on. So that was a huge design win for us. So let me switch over to Canvas conferences, talk about it just very briefly. I know, who here has not used BigBlueButton yet? Okay, so I'm for you right now. So first thing you'd want to know is Instructure does really good docs. You know, the Canvas conferences, they list it out, they explain things really well, very good documentation. In terms of the UI, if you want to create a conference, it's very simple. You have it on the left-hand side, you click it, in the upper right-hand corner. Oh, there is no red dot. I thought there'd be a red dot. If this was BigBlueButton, there'd be a red dot. So there's a conference, you click, and up comes a window. give a title, duration. You have this option, point here? Yes, you have this option to enable recordings, so the conference is recorded. And you can also have the option to enable no time limit. It basically means it's a permanent room where students can go into and you can go into throughout the course. So I've seen people create one-off conferences for each class, and I've seen them create basically a single room, a long-running conference. So once you do that, they click, they go into BigBlueButton. Canvas automatically maps the roles, so students go in as a viewer, instructors go in as a moderator, and the 5 core capabilities: desktop sharing, audio, chat, video, slides. Really simple. There's a couple tutorial videos right there. You can click on those links. They'll show you the tutorial videos. It's literally me just sitting down and in 4 minutes or so explaining everything about how to upload presentations and use it and so on. So again, we try to make it really straightforward. After the session is done, if the session was set to be recorded and you click the Start Stop Record button, then you've essentially marked a segment of the session to be recorded. That segment will surface in the playback, and you'll see it here underneath the session. So if you call the session here, I call it F recording test, you'll see the recordings listed underneath, and it's in hours and minutes. I saw this thread on the Canvas community, like, is it hours and minutes or is it minutes and seconds? So may try to make that a little bit more clearer, but it's in hours and minutes. And you click and you view it. Okay, and when you watch the recording, it's all there. You can see the slides, you can see the users who are shared their webcams, the desktop sharing, the chat, and so on. You can play it back. One of the things we did last fall was we built the audio using WEBRTC audio. So WEBRTC stands for Web Real-Time Communications. It's what the browsers, Firefox and Chrome support for doing very high quality audio. And we built that into BigBlueButton so that if you're using those browsers, it'll just default to WEBRTC audio by default. And if you try it with someone around the world, you'll find it's really good quality audio. We're extremely happy with it. BigBlueButton is written in Flash, so that means if you were using Safari or IE and didn't have WebRTC audio, it would just fall back and use the Flashback audio. So we're pragmatists, and we try to cover as many browsers as possible. I put the note here at the bottom. If you have firewalls in place at your university, which may be preventing the WebRTC audio from occurring, you'll know it right away. You'll try to use it and you'll get an error. It's usually the firewall rules are in place. Just contact Canvas support. They have a document that has the servers that are in use, and the simplest thing to do is just have the university whitelist those servers. After they're whitelisted, the communication goes back and forth. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the roadmap now. So there's 4 things that are kind of top of mind for me: polling, the video doc, closed captioning, and the mobile, and the HTML5 client, and I'll talk a little bit about iOS as well. Polling. So I thought about this a long time. We've looked at various designs for polling. We actually had implemented various prototypes. But let's go back to the user story. As an instructor, I want to quickly poll my students during the lecture so I can increase their engagement and incorporate the results into my lecture. So obviously here, I could poll the audience and say, you know, do you think BigBlueButton is good, A, B, C, or D? Or if I go back to this slide, I could put A, B, C, or D in front of it and maybe ask, well, which ones do you think are more important? So my thinking is, how can we make that really quick and fast? So I looked at a lot of presentations. I've seen lots of lectures being done in BigBlueButton over the years. So I made this slide up, but here's a representative slide. We saw some of the slides today at the keynote when they're talking about the Slinky and the disk where you pull on it, what was going to happen, right? So this was a poll, and you'd see usually a bullet point, and there's a couple choices of it. So if that's the poll that the instructor has, or that's the slide the instructor has, right there they want to just quickly, I want to know what you got, what the students think. So first thing they said was, okay, well, we're just going to provide a button. This is what it's going to look like. There'll be some choices for yes, no, true, false, and you'll be able to say, hey, do you want A, B, A, B, C, or so on. So previous designs of this, previous iterations would have had a dialog box come up and say, enter your poll question. And then when the students were asked the poll, they'll have another dialog box come up. We thought, you know what? If the slide is the question, let's just put the choices underneath the slide. So the information's already there on the slide. If it was A, B, C, D, they have, the buttons will appear underneath, and they'll be able to click A, B, C, or D. One click for students. The instructor, as soon as they start the poll, will have a dialog box comes up that shows them results in real time. They'll be able to see them come back live. They'll be able to see how many of their students respond, and they have 2 choices. They can close it or they can publish it. We figure at this point the instructor is going to kind of be interested in what's happening. Maybe they want to publish it, maybe they don't, but they'll be able to see it. If they publish it, again, previous designs had a dialog box coming up and the students could see it. We thought, why don't we just make the results part of the slide? So when you publish the poll, the results will go in as whiteboard marks in the lower right-hand corner. So what we'll literally do is we're just creating the graph in the lower right-hand corner. That means you can zoom in on it, you can annotate it with the whiteboard marks, super simple. But wait, there's more. Okay? The observation here is that if a lot of slides follow a similar format, like I have a question and an A, B, C, or D, or I have a statement, and what ones do you think are, what choice do you want to make? We already have the text of that slide for screen readers. It's already there in the client. So we support JAWS, we already know what the text is of the slide. Well, if we know what the text of the slide is and we look at it, we can give you a one-button poll to say we see that there are 4 choices in this slide. So now with one button, the instructor can initiate a poll, the students can respond with one button, and then the instructor can choose to publish or not. And what we think this will enable really rapid interaction with the students. You can construct your presentation by putting the questions in as you want to do in the flow. You can all put them at the end if you want, just jump to them and jump back. But now this slide becomes kind of the template or the driver for the class. And this particular way of polling, we think will help significantly increase the student engagement. And that's what we're working on, and that's what we're going to deliver to you for the fall. Okay. A couple more things. So the video doc. So a lot of times we see people using BigBlueButton for literally office hours, student coaching, online tutoring, small group collaboration, and video becomes pretty important. So the current video doc we have has sort of little windows around everything. We thought, why don't we make this a lot cleaner? So this is what the video doc will look like in the fall. We've removed all the UI, and now we just overlay inside the videos. So here I have it laid out in the lower left-hand corner. I clicked on my video, it makes it larger. That's a feature in the video doc. If you click on one of the webcams, it'll just make it larger. This is what it looks like if I made it kind of a long or horizontal. And this is what it will look like if I just made it larger. So, I guess I can't really hide it, can I? We were always wondering, like, how far would people go with the video? Like, if they had a chance to have basically as many webcams as they want, what would be the largest? Is there anybody here from Baylor University? Oh my God. Okay, so you were trying it out, and I went into one of the sessions, and there were 21 webcams shared in the session. I was like blown away. So they would even look cooler now with this, because there wouldn't be all little windows around them. So you're going to have a lot more cleaner view in terms of the video doc, and we just think that'll increase the usefulness of it when you're basically focusing on a collaborative with audio and video only. So the next is closed captioning. So we take accessibility really important. For the last, I think, 2 releases, we've had an outside company audit BigBlueButton and provide us an accessibility statement and help us in terms of making sure the software is accessible. So we already support screen readers. If you're using JAWS, I think you should, JAWS and IE, because IE seems to do the best. You get the text out of the slides, it works with a screen reader. The last piece we want to do is closed captioning. So again, we thought about this a lot, and we pretty much figured the easiest way to do it for the users would be, you already know that there are layouts in BigBlueButton. You can change kind of how the windows are organized. Well, we'll add another layout called closed captioning layout. So what will happen is it'll just move the presentation up, and then this is a mock-up. This is what it's going to look like. If you're a moderator, you'll have the controls to type in the closed captioning. So this is meant for a live class. I'll talk about what happens after the recording's done. So in a live class, you could have another person come in. They're meant to do the closed captioning. They log in as a moderator, or they have an instructor's role in the course, and they log in. And they'll see a window which allows them to basically choose a language. So we'll support multiple tracks for closed captioning. It could be English, French, German, whatever. And then they'll be able to type in the words, the sentence as they appear. So if you've seen closed captioning, it just appears as the stenographer or the card operator types it in. That's what the moderator will see. A student will, of course, just see the results as they come in. The student will be able to pick which language is currently active, and they'll be able to see the results come in underneath the slides. Very simple, very straightforward. And then when we have after the recording is done and it's processed, you'll see another tool on the toolbar, which will basically let you pick, when the playback occurs, let you pick which language track to occur. So the great thing about BigBlueButton is we have both the front end and the back end. We capture everything in real time. We have a processing. We turn it into a playback. And in that playback, we can make the closed caption available. And the tools we use already provide for it. We're just literally going to provide the tracks because we have now all the text that was rendered live. Okay, so let me talk about mobile. If you've attended any of the Canvas presentations on the mobile, you might have sensed that there's tension that goes on where we'll make the Canvas application more responsive for mobile devices, and then we'll make native mobile clients that try to duplicate all implement as much of the Canvas functionality. We face the same challenge as well. So the desktop web client, written in Flash, and I say good things about Adobe, they do an amazing job, so Flash. It's going to continue. We're pragmatists. It's doing very well for us. We're adding WEBRTC audio, and I'll talk about a few more things in a moment. iOS, so we've been working on a native iOS client and Android. We've been working on an HTML5 client. So there's three sort of development tracks, and what do you pick? So our thinking right now is we're working really heavily on the HTML5 client because it enables us to leverage more WebRTC, either for the video or the desktop sharing, but we're also working on the mobile client for an iOS as well. You'll see the HTML5 client come out first. And in terms of what we'll see, I'll show you, here's a couple of visuals of it. So this is literally a Galaxy tablet, and I've logged in, and I've got the HTML5 view. So lots of iteration on the design of this, but really trying to make it so that it adapts to a mobile view. This is the presentation area. You can make it full screen. You could raise your hand. This is the chat. You can join the audio. You can see who the users on the list. The use case for this is really the student, not the instructor, the student who is, say, in transportation, doesn't have access to his or her laptop, wants to whip out their Android phone and join the lecture. And they'll be able to see the teacher, hear the teacher, see the presentation, hear the teacher, and so on. A couple other views. So here it is in full screen mode. Again, you're just on the bus, you're sitting back, you can see the instructor change the slides, you'll be able to respond to the polls, and you're literally just watching their presentation. And here's what it looks like when you join. Again, a very mobile view. You click the gear icon, you can join audio two-way. We expect most people will join listen only since they're on if they're in transit or not by their desks, they're probably in an area that's got background noise. And you can change the slides, change the size of the font. And it's responsive as well. So here's what it looks like in portrait as well. So we figured most of the times the only things you're going to really care about are the presentation area, or if the instructor sharing desktop sharing, the presentation will swap and show the desktop. And when the instructor stops desktop sharing, it'll come back to the presentation. And then the chat. Because the chat is usually a pretty good back channel during the session. And you can type in it as well. It'll bring up the keyboard. So in terms of the deployment, we're going to do this in phases. We don't need to provide every function in BigBlueButton to provide something useful. Our focus is going to be on the student who wants to participate in a class remotely. The instructors will just use the web client because that's where all the functionality is for uploading slides, initiating polls, and so on. So the first release of the HTML5 client will be able to view the presentation, view desktop sharing, two-way chat, and two-way audio. And we've been working on it this summer. We'll be continuing to work on it in the fall. What you'll probably see is we'll come up with a dev server or a demo server. I'll post it to the Canvas community. People can come in, try it out with an Android device, give us feedback. We're working hard so it's really smooth and easy to use. And when you think about it from a user's point of view, they just want to get in and listen to the lecture and watch it. Maybe do a couple chat, maybe do two-way audio. That's about it. So after we get that first phase out, we'll work on two-way video. That way you can that video doc view that I saw earlier, imagine that on a mobile device. Presentation controls. So we actually have a little bit of that in now, but the idea is that if a student needs to be a presenter, and I see this in a lot of classes, usually near the end of the term, students are required to do a presentation. The instructor maybe uploads some slides or makes them presenter and has them upload slides. They'll at least be able to go next and previous. We put those controls in, so they'll be able to do a little bit of. And then moderator controls. If you play this out, what's essentially happening is that we are creating an HTML5 interface of BigBlueButton client. And at some point, we'll probably transition over to a pure HTML5 environment. But again, we're pragmatists. The Flash environment works really well. And for those techies who are in the room, you can do really good audio and video on Chrome and Firefox using WebRTC, but it's not supported on IE or Safari. And that's not our choice. I mean, we're great if the browser supported it. So you'll likely see the current environment continue to evolve, but just like today, when you click the headset icon, you're actually using the browser for the audio. Maybe in the future, when you click the webcam icon, you'll use the browser for the video. And you'll see us basically leverage more of what the browsers can do, but still maintain that pragmatic, broadest possible coverage that we've sort of built on it. And then the iOS, we're working on in parallel, and our goal is to get the iOS client out that will kind of mirror what the first bullet point here is for the HTML5, but that's where our bet is right now. We figure if we get an HTML5 client out, gets us further down the road of leveraging the capabilities the browsers have, gets us further down the road of maturing the architecture, and kind of gets the Android portion of the mobile market, and then we'll come out with an iOS client as well. But there's more in the future. We know there's other things that people want, other things people would like to have in the product. These are the ones in no particular order. Breakout rooms, we hear that a lot. We figured polling was probably going to be the most useful. And breakout rooms always falls in that category of people who don't use it, that's okay, we don't need breakout rooms. But if people who use breakout rooms, they really use breakout rooms. So my thinking is that we can probably do breakout rooms as an audio-first implementation, sometime after we finish the stuff that I talked about earlier. In other words, we can probably easily, relatively easy, because there's lots of complexity in breakout rooms, but provide something where the instructor could say, okay, let's go into breakout rooms, and there are like 5 or 6 breakout rooms that are just buttons 1 through 5 in the interface, and students can just click which one they want to go into. The instructors can bounce back and forth, and there's another button to kind of gather everybody back into the main audio channel. I mean, if we did that, would that solve any would that allow some folks to use breakout rooms? Okay, that's what we're going to do first, because there's some pretty sophisticated audio technology behind the scenes in BigBlueButton that we can leverage. It's essentially a full audio conferencing server. It's an open source project called FreeSwitch, and these guys are amazing. So we can leverage a lot of the stuff that's already there and put a UI in the front of it to allow you to put people into different audio rooms, bounce back and forth between them, and bring them back. Synchronized video playback, that's if you want to share a live video during a presentation, shared notes. Faster desktop sharing through WebRTC. For those of you that have been using desktop sharing, you probably noticed that Chrome stopped supporting launching of applets in Java, and we put up a little dialog box that says you need to use Firefox. You can still re-enable that. There's, you can ping me afterwards and I can show you there's still a way to re-enable. I'll put my email address at the end. There's a way to re-enable launching Java in Chrome, but Chrome has basically stated that Google is going to not support launching Java applets anymore. Firefox still works really well. The 2 browsers are awesome, by the way, Firefox and Chrome. But from a product management point of view, we're working really hard to provide you another option of doing desktop sharing. That's with WebRTC. And all that will mean is that when you do click the WebRTC, you'll be prompted to probably install a plugin to the, not a plugin, it's like an extension to the browser, it's just JavaScript, but that will allow you to share your desktop or a screen in a slightly different way, but it won't require any Java. So if there was a lineup for those people who were standing in line waiting for BigBlueButton to do different things with desktop sharing, not Java, I'm at the front of the line. Okay, so don't worry, we're getting there for you. And video is awesome in WebRTC as well. So you're going to see some more video, shared whiteboard. And this last one is fun because 2 years ago when I visited Instructure, I was in a group with one of all the account reps, and they were saying, like, Fred, if you could just do emote icons, they would love it. I said, you know what, emote icons, that's a really easy thing to do. Maybe I can do that. Well, we just spent so much time working on the hard stuff that we never really got to the emote icons, but that's on our roadmap as well. Okay, that's all I wanted to cover, but I wanted to give you a really good update in terms of what we were working on. We've got a few minutes for questions. Fire away. Yes?
It's a clarification question. Our institution moved to Canvas and coming from Blackboard.
Yes.
And Blackboard had Collaborate, and then you could do a office hour impromptu lecture.
Yep.
However, it would be attached to the class. Does this happen with BigBlueButton? Like, say, it's raining, there's a hurricane, I do a conferencing class instead. Is there going to be a URL so I can take that, whatever PowerPoint that I presented, and use it in another class, or is it tied?
Okay. So now I think I understand what your question is.
Yes.
Whenever you start a session, let's say there's a rainstorm and nobody can make it, you can go in and create a conference, right, and you can leave this checked, and all the members of that class will get it. After the recording is done, yes, you could literally go into the recording, and it's literally a URL at the end.
Yes.
You could take that URL and put it in as an external URL in another course and say, here's the recording from this other section or whatever.
Right. And then the other people can view it at a future date.
Exactly.
It's not tied to that specific original class where it was recorded.
It surfaces only in the class, but you can just take that URL and you can copy it and put it elsewhere. So.
Now, when that class gets reviewed for a faculty person's list, where is it? Is it your server somewhere?
So just, as you know, there's a free tier that's available to everybody, and the recordings expire after 14 days.
Right.
And there's a premium tier where the recordings are permanent. So you can take that URL, and while that 14 days period is there, that it doesn't matter where that URL is. You can mail it to someone and say, check this out. After that, the recordings expire. It's kind of that tipping point where for those schools that want to use it in production and we're probably paying for something anyway, the permanent recordings is something that you can get on a premium tier. And then that URL is, as long as that recording exists, as long as it hasn't been deleted, then you have it.
Thank you.
So if you're running a Canvas conference session, you can invite all course members, can you invite an external guest speaker?
Right, so I'm going to repeat the question. Yes, so the question is, if you're running the Canvas conference, certainly all the people in the conference are there. Can you invite an external guest speaker? Not within the Canvas interface, because for all good reasons, it's only allowing people in the conference. If you do go to the premium tier, it's one of the things that we built in was an invite URL. So the moderator would see a link inside the chat that would basically say, if you want to click, you can invite an external person in, and then we kind of provide that hook where you have a URL that will bring them in and the word guest will be in front of them. So it's something that we can provide on the premium tier. Yes?
What's the maximum number of users? Is it still 50?
So that's a really good question. What's the maximum number of users? Is it still 50? So it actually is a lot more than 50, but we're conservative by nature. I mean, so whatever number we gave, we know people would do more. The number, you can go much beyond 50. There are some snow days that I saw with 98 people in it, and there are some sessions I've seen with over 100, and there's a lot. But from a product management point of view, we would always say 50 users or less, but just know that that's not a hard-coded number. If you wanted to use 150 or 200 or more, I would say perhaps look at another system. There have been sessions over 150, but with my product management hat on, if you remember back in terms of the hierarchy, scalability was down there, right? These are other things we care about first, but it's not hard-coded. Other questions? Yes?
On your near-term development things, what's your timeline for this? You said ready for fall.
Yeah, the two things I'm pretty comfortable saying is polling and closed captioning. So those things we're working on really hard right now. We've got 2.5 months, which is this infinite amount of time. But I will say up front, if fall term comes and polling's not there, closed captioning's not there, it's not because lack of trying, it's because my criteria was stability first, but you're likely going to see it. Okay, I think that means we've got 1 minute left. Okay, sorry, let me go to the question way in the back, just so I don't. So we were going to be able to do it added later, but I think that might have to do something. We might have to do that as part of the premium tier, and the reason is the free tier all share a same account. So we are going to provide you the ability. I don't know how it's going to surface yet, but we are going to provide you the ability to add the SRT file, the external file that will let you reprocess the recordings and have the captioning in there. So the answer is yes. I think that's probably going to be part of the premium tier because we need to be separate accounts to handle it, but we will have it. I could add that to my roadmap, yeah. All right, we're out of time, but Tara and I are around. Thank you all for coming out. This was great.